Question 8. Function P models the monthly profit. I'm going to underline that. Profit represented by P of X. A company earns for making and selling X units. So X stands for the number of units they sell. And they give us this long equation, P of X equals, I won't read all of that to you. Then they give us a graph of the function P. So at first glance, this problem seems daunting. There's lots of words, lots of big numbers, and we've got a graph. But let's understand what we're looking at this graph before we answer the questions. Again, the x-axis is the number of units we're selling. So for instance, when we see this point at 20, this means, well, they've sold 20 units, and where the graph exists at x equals 20 is right here. So what does it mean that it's below that x-axis? Well, if it's below that x-axis, we're looking at the y variable that's represented in this problem by the profit. So when they sell 20 units in this problem, they're making a negative profit. Or in other words, they're not making profit. But then as you can see, as this graph goes up, they're selling more units. So right here, they're selling 40 units, and they've broken even. The profit's at 0. And then we go up further, right up here. At this point, the x value is 80, so they've sold 80 units, and they've maximized profit. They have a profit of $2,500. And we keep going down to 100. They've sold 100 units. They're back to a profit of 0. So that kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking at. So now let's read the question. Down here it says the company's monthly profit will be exactly $0 if it makes and sells blank. So here's the options. If they sell 20, 0, 40, or 100. So let's just look at 20. If they sell 20 units, we kind of already discussed this a little bit. If they sell 20 units, will their profit be exactly $0? No, it's going to be negative, and that's because it's below the x-axis there. So 20 is not in the answer. The next option was 40 or 100. Well, at 40 or 100, we can see it's right on the x-axis, and that lines up with a profit of $0. And that's what we want. So if they sell 40 or 100 units, they make exactly $0. The other option is if they sell 0 units. So if they sell 0 units, again, notice the graph is a little bit below there. So that means they are making negative profit if they sell 0 units. All right, the next part of the question says the company will make a profit if it makes and sells blank. So this time we want to make a profit. So we want to look above the x-axis. So here's the options. The first option, more than 100. So if they sell more than 100, that means we're looking at everything this direction. Well, as you can tell, as they make more than 100 units, what's happening to the graph? It's going down. They're actually making less of a profit the more units they sell. So that's not the correct answer. The next choice, less than 40. So if they sell less than 40 units, that's this section of the graph all the way up to, but not including 40. But again, as you can see, the graph is below the x-axis here, so they're making negative profit. We want a positive. We want a profit. There's no such thing as negative profit. We just want a profit. And then finally, the final option between 40 and 100. Well, between 40 and 100, this is where the graph is above the x-axis, so this represents a profit, and that's what we want. That's the sweet spot. Between 40 and 100 units sold, they'll make a profit. And then finally, it says, but it won't make a profit if it makes and sells blank. First option between 40 and 100. We know that's not the right answer because that's when they make a profit. The next option is between 60 and 80. So again, between 60 and 80 is this section right here of the graph. This section of the graph above the x-axis, so they're still making a profit between 60 and 80. And then the last option, more than 100, that's a winner. We've already talked about that. So when we're above 100 units sold, the graph is below the x-axis, and that's what we want. It's important to note there's actually another answer. It's just not an option. The graph is below the x-axis from 0 to 40. So they're also not making a profit if they sell less than 40 units, but that's not an option here.